Cool. Well, welcome everybody. So nice to see so many familiar faces. Really happy to see a lot of people from the Dojo community. Yeah, where do we start? I've got a lot to share with you today. I hope we get through it in 60 minutes. And I also want to do a little bit of Q&A at the end, if you guys have some questions. So, that's me. And I'm all about live your heart out. And so I usually try to start my talks with a little story. And for some reason I struggled for this one because I've been really busy these past few days and weeks and months, and I feel like my brain is all over the place. So also excuse me for using my notes quite a bit. But I got the story handed a few days ago when I opened my Instagram and I found a message from someone, a follower. She's been following me for quite some time, and I could tell she was a very passionate follower. But I didn't think she would go to such great lengths with the photo that she sent me. And she sent me the photo, and I don't know what's happening there. Okay. But it made me smile a lot when I saw the photo that she sent me, because it's almost as though I realized with the work that I'm doing and also with the topic of this talk today, I feel like it's working. And so she sent me a photo of this. So my brand, or me, everything that I do these days, it's all called Live Your Heart Out. And so she sent me a photo of her having just gotten a tattoo of hashtag Live Your Heart Out. And I thought that was pretty awesome. I was like, my message is actually reaching people to a place where they tattooing that stuff, that message, onto their own body. So I felt like I was doing my job right. And it made me really, it almost brought me to tears, because, yeah, it doesn't happen every day that people tattoo your message that's coming from deep inside of my heart, that I'm trying to spread around the world, onto their skin. Yeah, I don't know about the mouse. I'm also recording it, so I can also share it afterwards. It will be on YouTube. So a little bit about my story. I started my journey as a digital nomad in 2011. I've been a nomad ever since I was a teenager, really, and living all over the place. And I started out freelancing, but also I created this travel blog in Germany called Planet Backpack. And it kind of turned into a really pretty big deal pretty quickly, because travel blogging wasn't really that big of a deal yet in Germany when I started out. And I, from the very beginning, realized the power of putting my face on my website, on all my social media channels, and on my Instagrams and all of that. And it was something that wasn't quite as widespread as it is these days, where everybody's selfieing and doing Instagram stories and stuff like that. So this is 2011, 2012. And so that went all really well. And Planet Backpack grew to one of Germany's biggest travel blogs. And you know, I had a great time showing people where I was going and all my travels, and also sharing what I've learned as a digital nomad and building my online business as I was traveling the world, and you know, just showing off the laptop, the photos, working on your laptop on the beach and all of that stuff. And back then that was still a novelty. These days it's so common almost to be able to do this. And yet I did that for quite some time, and I was, you know, making passive income, and things were going really well, and I was living the life in paradise. I was in Bali. This is now, I don't know, two or 3 years ago. And I was living in this big villa with a pool and a maid and a poolman and, you know, all of that stuff. And yet, I was going through a really hard time, and I couldn't actually really appreciate everything that I'd worked for really hard to arrive at that point, living in this beautiful house, in this beautiful place, making all that money, having all that, 12 minutes of fame or whatever as a travel blogger. And so, yeah, I realized then, about 2 years ago that was, that I couldn't keep going like that. I couldn't be sharing all these beautiful images on Instagram of how awesome this life is as a digital nomad living in paradise, being this travel blogger and going to all these amazing places around the world. I felt like, what's the word? An imposter. I felt like I was lying because I was going through a lot of shit, a lot of depression, a lot of heartbreak. And I remember this one night that I was on the rooftop of my house in Mckinnon, the house where Michael lives in now, actually. And it was a starry night, and I was looking up to the full moon. It was just before New Year's, actually. And I was like, man, what the fuck am I going to do? Because if this is not making me happy, then what is, I didn't even try to do the whole, career as a 9-to-5 and having big cars and big TVs and a big house and shit like that. I went straight to the freedom route, and that still didn't make me happy. And so as I was lying there that night, I was contemplating really hard with myself in many ways. And one way was, I need to either shut this whole travel blog thing down because I can't keep pretending that I'm someone that I'm not, or I need to start sharing what's going on. And I need to start sharing the struggles because they're fucking real, and a lot of us, they know it. Just because we live in Bali doesn't mean everything's rainbows and unicorns. So I was contemplating that night and the following days, and I realized, or I then decided that I was going to start sharing. I'm not going to shut this down. I put so much work into all this. I think it's time to share my challenges and what I was going through. And so I started sharing. And as I started sharing my personal stuff, I also realized that I'm not actually into travel blogging that much anymore. I actually think it's pretty boring. So I was also hunting for what is my real calling. I felt like that was just one step into the direction of realizing myself, I guess, and helping people and sharing value. And so I started sharing more personal stuff and things that were quite scary and making myself really vulnerable, and I was fucking scared a lot of times to press publish, and yet the feedback that I got was absolutely beautiful and amazing. I remember, and then I also started actually going into YouTube and making more videos, and I then did a video telling my coming out story as a gay woman, and I was super scared to put that video out there. It was really, really difficult, and yet I pressed that publish button and I published it anyway, even though I was really scared. And again, my followers didn't let me down. They were amazing, they were beautiful, they sent me a lot of love, a lot of amazing feedback, and I got a lot of, holy fuck, me too. That's exactly the same thing I went through. Thanks for making this video, all of that stuff. And so the more I did this, publish these sort of stories, these very personal stories, the more I realized the power of just me being me and me being myself. And just putting myself out there and sharing very personal Instagrams and a lot of personal stuff on YouTube. And it's not all super deep and personal and vulnerable and stuff. I mean, I still also share fun stuff and good stuff. But it all kind of culminated in January of this year then. I did a 30 days challenge on YouTube, 30 days of vulnerability. So I made a video every single day about something that I felt vulnerable about, or ashamed of, or uncomfortable, or embarrassed. All of these feelings that are really yucky. And I was like, because if there's one thing that I have learned is that I want to face my fears. I don't want to be hijacked by them. So knowing that how afraid I am of sharing these sort of things, knowing how much shame I've been carrying my entire life, I was like, that's the path I need to go on. I need to make videos about it because if I can do that, then I can do everything. And so I made 30 videos in 30 days about being vulnerable. It was also the kickoff from going from German to everything in English. And it was beautiful. It was amazing. You can check all that stuff out online. It's all out there. And so one of my biggest learnings was nothing happens when you put yourself out there. Nothing happens when you make yourself vulnerable. Actually, only beautiful things happen. Nothing bad happens at all. And the second thing I've realized on this journey in general is that because I've been on this quest to fulfillment, really, I feel like my struggles in life, but also my depression and whatever, has always kept on pushing me to figure out what does it actually mean to live a fulfilling life. And so every day is, again, the question, what makes me fulfilled? How can I have a day where I feel fulfilled? I'm not always successful. I've actually sucked really hard these past few days. But it's my quest, and I'm trying to figure this thing out. And one of the biggest things that I've learned, for me anyway, to live a fulfilling life is to grow as the human that I am, as the businesswoman that I am, as the lover that I am, as the YouTuber, the yogi, whatever, the meditator. And then, as a consequence, also sharing that, meaning to contribute, to help other people, to inspire other people, which is one of the reasons I'm standing here today. And so I then started, there's technologies. Is there some Mercury in retrograde happening right now? Because I think it is. What do I do? Just this? Yeah. Okay. So with Live Your Heart Out, my new platform, I haven't abandoned my travel blog yet. It's still out there and everything, but I'm not really creating any new content. So with Live Your Heart Out, my message is that it's safe to be yourself, shamelessly, no apologies needed, to live passionately, full on, full in, with all you've got, with all your heart, to grow as a human soul, and to contribute our gifts and callings to other people's lives in a meaningful way. That's my message. And also, I stand for the gay community, de-shaming depression, and embracing vulnerability. Just as a little sideline. So that's kind of what's come out of this journey so far, but it's also still in progress. And my question to you is, as you're listening to my story and to my message, I wonder, what stories are you guys carrying around? Because we all have them. We're all human beings. We all live life. We've all gone through challenges. We've all learned a lot of stuff as we walk on this planet. And I always say that I contact people, places I've never been. And what I mean by that is I can only share from my own experience, things that I've experienced. So the messages that I share, I do so by living them and by telling stories around my core messages that I have. So essentially I'm trying to be a little bit of a storyteller and tell stories that I would have liked to hear when I was 18 or 16. And I also realized actually that we all carry a lot of stories in us, not just one. Like I have this one story that I just told you about my dark night of the soul, and yet there's so many other stories. And I'll try and guide you a little bit later into how you can extract those stories. Yeah, let's keep going. And I guess that was another huge epiphany as I was sharing more and more of my stories and the feedback that I was getting that that the right story or the right message at the right time can have an immense that the right story, the right message at the right time can have an immense impact on someone else's life. So for example, no, she's like, I want to listen to Conni. So let's say someone is struggling with their coming out, you know, whatever, 15, 20, 35 years old, however, and they're on the internet scrolling their feed and whatever, they come across my coming out video on YouTube, and it inspires them to finally step into their truth, to then have their coming out. And I get a lot of emails and comments with exactly that story. Thank you so much for sharing this. I was finally able to tell my family and my friends that I was gay. Or, you know, someone that battles with depression, finding my video about how I deal with it and what helps me and how it makes them feel less alone for feeling shit. Or maybe someone who wants to quit their 9 to 5 and wants to come to Bali and live the dream life, finding my videos about how to do that, and maybe also the challenges. And they then finally decide to take the plunge. Again, all feedback and emails that I've received over the years. And so when I discovered the power of me, you know, putting myself out there and sharing myself and my stories and my message, and that effect that it can have on other people and their lives, that changed everything. And that's why I'm giving this talk today, because I want more people to go out and share their stories and share their message, because the impact that that can have on other people is immense. All right, so what is a personal brand? I actually really hate this term. I don't know why I named my talk The Art of Personal Branding. Because I came across a quote the other day by James Altucher. Maybe some people know James. And what I got from him was that, fuck personal branding. Don't be a personal brand. Just don't. Just be a person. Kind of, to me personally, makes a lot of sense. James Altucher actually says that brands, and especially also personal brands, they're all liars. Because what he means by that is when you brand something or yourself, like you're trying to pretend something that you might not be. And that is very far from what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to communicate here. So it's not about pretending you're successful. It's not about pretending to be happy every day. It's not about you know, sharing your morning routine and that's going to change everybody's life. It's definitely not about that. So honest personal branding is about the scars. It's about the blemishes. And it's more than just bragging about failure, which could also be a form of ego. It's actually about truly helping people. So the goal shouldn't actually be to be a personal brand. I couldn't care less about the word and the terms, but the goal should be to go out and inspire other people and help other people and provide value. So for me, a personal brand, in its most awesome sense, is someone who goes out and inspires, who shares their stories, their vision, their mission, and figures out how I can provide value to other people by sharing who I am and my learnings. I met this girl. I was at this YouTube conference a couple of months ago in LA, and you got to network and talk to people. And so there's this girl sitting next to me, and she was very pretty, but she was also quite young. And I turned her and I was like, "Hey, what's your name?" Da da da. She's like, "My name is," I don't know, let's call her Katie. And Katie said, and I said, "Oh, what do you do?" and she says, "Oh, I'm an influencer." I'm like, "Oh, really? What's that? What does that mean? Like, what do you do?" "I'm an influencer." Like, okay, so what do you influence about? And it was a very, very tedious conversation because it seemed as though she had created this humongous following, but she couldn't actually tell me what the value she was providing. But she was making a lot of money because she had hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers, and she was very pretty and had a lot of really beautiful photos on her Instagram. And I think the reason why I'm telling this is because that's not where I'm going with this, with the whole personal brand. I just thought it was funny to share. So I was like, wow, I don't think she had any idea what her personal brand was. She just couldn't, yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Tits and bums.
Huh?
Tits and bums.
Tits and bums, that's it. So it's really about blending who you are with what you do. Just a little time check here. Oh, I'm doing really well. So, and in the end, like, we all have a personal brand, right? We can all be Googled, and I hope you're out there owning the first page on Google. I'm sure you guys have Googled yourself. I'll show you my result later, because I'm owning it. And it's really nice to be able to own at least the first 5 results on Google with what you actually do, and also the photos. So yeah, it's really about showing up as yourself, who you are in life, and then also obviously who you are in business or how you make a living, because I make a living with what I do here. It's about our reputation, it's about how others perceive us, how they see us. And it's about, you know, showing other people and what they can expect if they get involved with us, basically. I feel like there's like this old notion of what is a personal brand and who we can be as our professional beings. Because back in the days, we had to kind of pretend like we're someone we're not. We had to wear clothing that we actually didn't really like wearing, like suits and like ties and you know, and behave in a way that maybe wasn't us, so in the way we were speaking, in the way we were expressing ourselves, maybe also in the way we had our hair cut. And it was almost very separate, right? There was our private self, and then there was our professional self. And I believe when it comes to personal branding, it's actually all about integrating all of this, all of us, and streamlining it online and offline and on all lines and spheres of lives, basically. That there's no, I'm not one Conni professionally and one Conni offline, and then another Conni, you know, when we're going out for beer or whatever. I'm myself all the time. And I really like that. And that was actually one of the reasons why I started YouTube, is because I used to get a fair amount of critics and haters and just people just not liking that I was having a nice life that was not in Germany, having a 9-to-5. And Germans can be very critical and very skeptical. And so one of the reasons why I started YouTube was because I wanted to close that gap where on the one side what I was putting out there in text and photos and what people were like receiving on their end, and we all have a filter what goes in and what we don't want to see or read. We read between the lines, we read only what we want to read, and then what I was actually trying to communicate, and there was a gap, and I didn't like that. And so I was always trying really hard to close that gap so that whoever I was in my private life was also the one that other people would perceive online on my social media channels. And so YouTube, I felt like making videos is the most immediate, the most vulnerable channel or medium out there. It's also the most challenging one. Actually, I have someone sitting right here who started a 30-day YouTube challenge, vulnerability challenge. a couple of days ago who's going through that exact experience of just how difficult it is to make videos. Sitting in front of that camera and talking into it. Anyone else who's making video regularly? Nice, cool. So 3 people, awesome. Kind of proves that it's a little bit difficult and challenging. But one of the best things I've ever done in my life was starting YouTube, starting making videos regularly. I've done 3 30-day challenges of making videos, but also I make also videos all the time and several times a week, but it's always nice to challenge yourself a little bit, to grow and to evolve. Like I said, I like growing and then sharing that. So in the end, my aim is also, I guess, in one way or another, to make my followers feel like, as they're watching my videos or reading my stuff, as if we are hanging out, having coffee, you know, just kind of, I'm right there. And a lot of times that's the feedback I get from my followers, is that, oh, I feel like you're a really good friend of mine, even though I've never met you. And it creates, obviously, a lot of trust. I'll show you if, yeah, it's working. So this is my website. Well, maybe we can also, so this is my travel blog. Yeah. Oh man, I've aged, huh? Thanks for. This is almost 3 years ago now, actually, down at Echo Beach at 6:30 in the morning. The puffy face. So that's my travel blog. This is what I'm doing these days. Live your heart out. I call it personal growth and lifestyle design for unconventional people. That kind of is still in the making as well. Yeah, I actually thought I had screenshots of how Planet Backpack looked like in the very beginning when I launched it. That's my Instagram. A lot of personal photos of me. I actually made, so I do regular photo shoots, and mostly for my social media channels and my websites and stuff. And as I was, when was this? I think in the summer. I was giving a workshop about the art of vulnerability, and I actually also last week launched an entire online course about the art of vulnerability. And because it's so easy to take photos with a lot of clothing on, I wanted to, again, grow, and so I decided I wanted to do my first photo shoot where I was showing some skin. And so I rented a villa in somewhere outside of Ubud, and hired a good friend of mine who's a really good photographer, and I also knew I would feel quite comfortable with her doing that. And so, like, that photo came out of that. Obviously, I'm only posting the PG-13 ones on Instagram. But that was another, I guess, that one in the middle there, is another way for me to stretch my comfort zones and to show my vulnerabilities, and to really, like, when I published a photo like this one or like this one, like, it was really difficult for me. It's not something where I'm just like, oh, nice, I'm just gonna press publish and just waiting for the likes to come in. It was like pressing publish and just like, you just want to hide, you know? I still have those moments sometimes when I publish something and I want to hide for a few months. But then I come out, you know, I just like shut it all, and then after a couple of hours I'm like, I think it was necessary to do, and usually the feedback is really amazing, and then I can feel in that moment how much I've stretched myself, and that feels really awesome, actually. That's my YouTube channel. But actually I wanted to show you other examples of people that are doing a really good job with their brands. Obviously Gary Vaynerchuk, he, although I don't like that he's showing his back. I like it when people actually show their faces. And yet, he does an amazing job at being a personal brand. He's on all channels. He's always active, always putting content out there, sharing his struggles and his learnings and all of it. I like what Jordan is doing. He's a gay life coach. He also shares a lot about his journey, and yeah, he's a He's an inspiration to me for sure as well. We also know Pat Flynn, who's doing an amazing job at being a personal brand. He's all over the place with smart passive income. But actually everybody knows Pat Flynn, right? I actually met him at that YouTube conference a couple of months ago. He's a super, super lovely guy. And because he wants to get into YouTube even more. Because he also realizes the power of video and just how text is just really old school. Then this guy, he's been here actually. Yeah, Chris the freelancer. Also really lovely guy. One day realized, I'm not just a freelancer. I'm not just Chris. I'm Chris the freelancer. And he's doing a great job at putting himself out there, making really cool videos. He's grown his channel super quickly to a lot of subscribers. Doing a really good job at, branding himself on his Instagram. So that's that. Definitely check his stuff out. He's a really lovely guy. Marie Forleo, a lot of us know her. I actually really didn't like her for the longest time because obviously we look a little bit different. And yeah, actually just as of recently, I was listening to a podcast with her and Tim Ferris that just came out. And I realized that she's a really cool chick. And now I really like her. And I like when that happens, when you're proven wrong. But she does an amazing job at branding herself as Marie Forleo. Who else do we have? Oh, well, and obviously Tim Ferris. I wanted to show him. I don't want to unlock the letters. How do I go back? Because he's been doing an amazing job. And right now he's all over all the podcasts right now because he's giving a lot of interviews because he's published another book. And he is more and more so growing into the Tim Ferris that he actually is, because we all know him as the 4-Hour Workweek guy, and it was the book that got me into it 6 or 7 years ago. And now he's evolving out loud, which is what I like to say when people do that, and also I guess what I do. We are sharing our personal growth, our development, our evolution as human beings out loud on social media. And he's doing it too. He's a guy who's discovering emotions and feelings and dealing with his past and his childhood and his traumas, and he's talking about it more and more so in a lot of podcast interviews. And going back to the why. Just doing another time check. I don't know, I feel like I'm doing too well. This is weird. Usually time moves so quick, but I guess I also have an hour. Usually I only have 30 minutes. All right, so I thought I'd put a bit more text on the slides this time. So why actually have a personal brand? I mean, it's a lot of what we already talked about, just summarized, I guess. It's really about inspiring other people, I believe, by sharing your story, your message, your vision. Whatever. And I believe that by doing so, you actually establish a real, proper, true connection, an emotional connection. And that's what builds trust. That's what builds loyalty and genuine relationships. And maybe some of you know the concept of 1,000 True Fans by Kevin Kelly. If not, go out, Google it, read it. It's around the fact that you really only need 1,000 fans, true fans, that follow you, that buy everything that you publish or launch, that read everything, that can't wait for the next newsletter, that can't wait for the next video, that can't wait to be the first to buy your online course. And I only want those true fans. Like, I don't want people just kind of tagging along and checking in once a month. Like, I'm more so motivated by growing a tribe, by really growing true fans. It can help, obviously, a lot with positioning yourself as a thought leader, as an expert, or just generally something that you're passionate about. For me, it's a lot about generally my personality, but also, you know, let's say Chris the freelancer focuses mainly on being a digital nomad, or Pat Flynn mainly on, you know, making passive income. And building a platform, a personal brand, not a person platform, also really not just gives you the opportunity to grow an amazing tribe of people that follow you, but also generally then meet awesome people, make new friends, you know, and open your email inbox and have amazing emails in there from your followers, but also from companies that might want to work with you, collaborations, invitations to speak, all that sort of stuff. Maybe literary agents wanting to write a book with you. I mean, it just can't happen if you don't put yourself out there. And this sort of stuff every day it's always a bit of a adventure going into my email inbox, because a lot of times it's like a jungle in there, and I get a lot of emails, but to like go through, and then sometimes there's awesomeness in there. And the stuff that has come out of the fact that I've put myself out there like that is beyond magical for me anyway. And yes, it's been an amazing journey into personal growth and self-confidence, because yes, it does take a bit of courage to put yourself out there, but it's also an amazing, beautiful way to connect with yourself and to really get to know yourself better. So highly recommended, even if you don't even want to build a huge following or whatever. And I feel like the reason why, you know, we do call it personal branding is because it helps us through the process to finding clarity in our message and who we are, to then actually being able to reach people more efficiently and effectively. So how do we actually how can we actually be a person with a brand? Whoa, oh, it's the cat. Oh, be friends. You're safe here, buddy. Just chill out. All right, how to be a person with a brand. And I kind of like this saying by Dolly Parton: find out who you are and then do it on purpose. But a lot of times the question is, and it was a question that I had to ask myself a lot, and I continue to ask myself that question, but who are you? What makes me me? What makes you you? Because in the end, we're obviously all unique with the people that we are. There's only one of us in most cases. Sometimes there's two or three or four. And, but in the end, like, that's our USP, right? And so I'm never worried when there's people out there copying my stuff, or like sometimes even they copy the entire blog post, or when they, whatever, you know, copycats. I'm never worried about it, because I know that they'll never be me, they'll never be Conni. And so, and that's, doesn't worry me. So me, for example, as a personal brand, I'm Conni, I'm vegan, I'm gay, I'm a yogi, I'm really into exercise, I'm German, what else? I'm a lifelong gypsy, live in Bali, I have short hair, really easy to recognize. I'm a lot into, you know, all that vulnerability stuff and de-shaming. I love skateboarding. I sometimes also surf, but I really suck. I'm a travel blogger. That's my brand. That's sort of what people know out there. And that's who I am offline as much as I am that online. So I don't think there is any point in trying to be somebody we're not. And I know so from experience, because I tried really hard to be somebody I was not for the longest time of my life, and didn't make me happy. And yeah. Huh? What if you're boring? I don't think there's such thing as a boring person in that way, because we all have stories. We've all gone through shit, and we can all share that in a way that I'll explain in a minute. Yeah, it's really about, you know, cultivating a lot of self-awareness and getting to know ourselves and who we really are and our truth, and embracing that truth and then sharing it. So, I would like to share with you a little exercise that I find interesting, because So we might think that we're boring, right? And I used to think I was boring too. But there's a way to figure out the things that we might not have embraced yet as our powers. We might not have stepped into parts of ourselves that are there, but they're there, they're here. So there's parts in ourselves that are here, but we're just not expressing them yet. And so pretend like you are inviting people for a dinner party, like an intimate dinner party, and you can choose awesome people that you find inspiring, like your heroes, people you admire, whatever, your idols, and you make a list of these people. And I really, like, I'm not kidding, I would really do that exercise after you leave here or tomorrow. And can be the people can be alive, they can be dead, they can be celebrities, bloggers, YouTubers, can be me, can be family, can be friends, whatever. Just, there's no limits to who can come to your dinner party because you're throwing it. And for me right now, for example, who would I invite? Oh, we just talked about Tim. I would invite Tim Ferris. I'd like to talk to him about his childhood stuff and how he's come around to embracing his more vulnerable sides. I would like to invite maybe Elizabeth Gilbert because I really like how beautiful she expresses herself. She's very much in touch with her feelings, her emotions, her vulnerabilities, and she's just has gone through a lot. And I just find her, yeah, extremely inspiring. Who else? Oh, I would also invite Oprah, because I love Oprah. She embodies the most beautiful feminine strength that someone can embody. And I just love her voice and just how she makes people feel. Like, she makes people feel awesome. Who else would I invite? Oh, I'd like to invite Peter Mckinnon. I don't know, for those of you that maybe know that guy, he does a lot of awesome YouTube videos about videography and photography and stuff. And the reason I would invite Peter is because I think the way his brain works and the way he can express himself in front of the camera. And he's really creative and he's really funny, but also in a really sweet way, you know? So the question is, I've just kind of explained to you not just who I would invite, but why I would want to invite them, like some of their character traits. Some of the things that I find admiring or inspiring, and of how they actually show up as who they are. And those aspects that I find attractive in them, I also carry in myself. I'm just not expressing them yet. That's why I'm so attracted to them. That's why I can only see them and receive them, because somewhere inside of me, I kind of want to be like that. And I can be like that. I just need to step into that part of myself, because otherwise I couldn't even see it. I couldn't receive these parts of those people. So we can make these aspects ourselves. So the next step is to, you know, you write the list of the people that you want at your dinner party, and then you write down what you find inspiring about them, or why you want them to come, some of their, you know, characteristics, parts of their personalities, and you make a list of that. And just doing that exercise for me was highly, I don't know, cathartic, that one. What? Tick. Cool. So there are some questions that obviously you can ask yourself as you are trying to, those slides, I'll put them in the group and everything, you don't have to take any notes. But these are some of the questions that I go through regularly with myself, with any, with any sort of thing that I brand or launch or in one way or another. And I'm not going to go into each and every one of them because I find it more important, as I'm checking the time again, to go into storytelling. But all I want to say is with this, you know, and all these questions that will tell you a lot about yourself and who you are. And even if you don't want to be a personal brand and be this blogger out there and make videos and be a YouTuber and Instagram or whatever, just do it anyway. It's really fascinating and interesting. But what I want to say is also that the more you go out and communicate these parts of yourselves, the more you can then actually attract the right people to you. So your vibe attracts your tribe. Like attracts like. And so, for example, I was just a few weeks ago, I was in Sri Lanka and I was running a retreat there with a friend of mine. And man, like, I wasn't really nervous about the retreat itself and running it, but more, it was like a yoga, surf, meditation, business, personal development retreat. Super awesome. But I was like, before the people arrived, I had 12 women, and it sold out within a day a few months ago, and I was just like, wow, who are these women that like sign up in 24 hours after I posted the retreat? Who are these women that are coming to my retreat? I was just like, oh man, I was just like really curious to see what kind of people would show up. And I've had bad experiences with some other retreats with other businesses in the past, and we had drama and just, yeah, some uncomfortable situations happening. So I was really worried about that might happen again. You know, there's always someone causing or stirring up the energies. So they showed up, and within a day, it was very clear that I had an amazing group of 12 women coming to hang out with me in Sri Lanka. And we had an amazing week. And it was really, really special and just beyond. And Corey, my friend who was running the retreat with, she said to me, because I was like, man, I'm just so grateful for all these amazing people or women that showed up to my retreat. She's like, yeah, but you know, Conni, your vibe attracts your tribe. Like, what did you expect? I was like, yeah, that's true. So that was a really beautiful example of that. I didn't really have to worry. And I think a big thing about this whole thing is to streamline who you are, not just online and offline, but in all areas. And I mean, it's, you know, if you want to go into the specifics of it, obviously with who you are as a person, but also let it be, you want your personality to come through on your website, in the photography, in the way that you present yourself, in the way that you write your newsletters. I always say to people, write like you talk. I don't want to be anybody else when I communicate on other channels. The videos that I make, I want them to be, like I said, like as if they're just sitting right here, right next to me, having a coffee with me. And that's all I got to say about that for now. Obviously, there's many ways, there's many ways to be a person and many places. And then we're just obviously not meant to be, so we're going to the next. I'm just a big fan of video, and I just really want to spread the message that video is really cool. And if you were ever considering doing video, you might want to now give it a shot after this talk. Just a few quick ones, but like I said, all these slides are going to be available. If you don't own your name as a URL, go and buy it now. And yeah, I'm a big fan of doing professional photo shoots, representing who you are, your personality, your lifestyle, whatever it is that you do, your story. So I go and do photo shoots every few months. I hire someone wherever I am, and just have fun for a couple of hours. Go and find a photographer that's fun to go out and have a laugh with, and maybe have a beer beforehand to kind of loosen up, and then you go out. There's actually real Instagram photographers now. Actually, when I was in LA recently, I found someone. I went on Craigslist, out of all places, and she advertised herself as an Instagram photographer. And I thought it was a great idea, because amidst all the other photographers, I hired her, and she knew exactly what I wanted and needed, and that was great. Also, yeah, video shoots. I've done a couple of like image video shoots that have been a lot of fun, just because you can really convey a lot more of your message emotionally in a video that's like 2 minutes long with beautiful music, and you're doing some, maybe, you know, you wrote down a little poem or something, or just some words describing who you are and what you do. That's my Google search. I'm owning it. 1, 2, 3, yeah, and the photos. I just checked it today. I was like, whoa, hopefully, yeah, it looks good. Yeah, so when it comes to your story, guys, because there is no such thing as a boring story, there's only boring storytellers, I believe. And I've been really fascinated with the art of storytelling because it's really not that easy to tell stories well. And I lost my train of thought. So in the end, as a personal brand, I'm the story. Whatever I've gone through in life, in my case anyway, what I've experienced, I share. Not everything. I mean, there's still parts of my life where I'm a bit more not private. It's either that I'm still going through stuff and I haven't reflected properly yet, that I can share it to provide value, or I'm just still in the middle of it and I couldn't provide value because it's just, yeah, it's still this really juicy sort of process where I'm in. And then obviously there's some things regarding family or some other private stuff with friends or partners maybe that where you gotta make your own decision if you want to share them or not. But I tend to be very sensitive about that sort of stuff. So for example, my family doesn't want to be in any of my videos when I make daily vlogs when I'm at home in Germany, and that's totally cool. Obviously, I respect that. So it's really about knowing who we are and then going out and sharing that through personal stories, because I believe that they actually then create that emotional connection. The more stories I also tell in this talk, the more I get your trust and the more you feel connected to me, rather than if I was just standing here and just, you know, ticking off everything, all the points that I wanted to share with you today. And so by telling stories and then combining that with wanting and trying to be helpful and providing value, because I'm not just telling stories all day long, I'm also actually trying to, you know, enrich other people's lives in a way that's helpful. Let it be with their personal growth, let it be with becoming a digital nomad, let it be living a healthy lifestyle or going vegan. So really, you know, think about the content that you want to share. And as much as stories should be part of that, there should be maybe like 3 or 4 or 5 content buckets, as I would like to call them, to be cohesive. Or maybe there's an umbrella. If you think that your niche or whoever you are as a personal brand is too wide-ranging, and that has been my problem as well. But how can you find one overarching theme? What's that umbrella thing? That really helps too. And there's a really good website called puttylike.com, P-U-T-T-Y like.com. If you struggle with having a cohesive message or struggle with kind of coming up with that one message because you have so many, I guess it's what they call us multi-potentialites. There's just so many things we're passionate about and want to learn about and share. And yeah. So rule number 1 is be a person. And what comes with being a person is that we go through stuff and it's not all rainbows and unicorns. And I believe it's very important to also share the shadows and share our vulnerabilities to be actually really authentic, because like I've learned, I can't just share the happy parts. Like it doesn't work for me personally. And I don't think it's authentic because that's not how life works. Neither as me as a private person, nor as generally as an entrepreneur or whatever, whoever you are. It's never just rainbows and unicorns. Some people are really worried about oversharing online. And I believe it's not oversharing when you are trying to provide value with the story that you're sharing. And if you share the story in a way that you actually share the learnings that have come out of that experience or whatever. And I also feel like oversharing is more where your ego is at. And true vulnerability really comes from the heart. That's how I look at it. So with storytelling, again, number 1, be a person when you tell stories. We all have our hero's journey. There is we've all gone through life, I believe, in one way or another. We've experienced our ups and downs. And I believe the best way to tell stories is through that hero's journey. And I've been really fascinated with Joseph Campbell and his books, and there's YouTube videos out there. And if you're interested in storytelling, then definitely dive into the hero's journey. And I mean, all good Hollywood films, and they're all based on that concept. And the way I implement that with how I tell my stories, and let it be on YouTube or on Instagram or wherever, really, is that, you know, in the end, it's about where was I in the beginning, back then? What was the struggle that I was going through? And then eventually, I must have had an epiphany, because I then changed something, did something, embraced something, to then get to where I am today. And then I share how that experience shaped me, what I learned, and the reflections and all of that. So I did all of this actually with the story that I told you in the very beginning of how I was struggling, and then I was on that rooftop, and the epiphany that I had then, and then what I did, and how I feel today. I can also tell, I mean, there's many different stories I can tell in the same format, but essentially that's how it works. So a really easy way to practice this is write a list. Love writing lists. I'm also a fan of James Altucher, who says, come up with 10 ideas every morning when you get up. So if maybe you do your morning pages or whatever, just do an extension. Just come up with 10 ideas. Could be anything, whatever. And this way, it's like you can come up with 10 struggles that you've had in your life. And I'm sure we can all come up with 10, at least 10. And then you make a list of your biggest learnings for each of them, and how those struggles actually benefited you. And then, to then actually turn that into a little story, you write it down in 3 sentences or less to explain it. Because in that way you can practice, okay, this is where I was, this is what happened, the struggle, today I'm here, how did it shape me, what did I learn? And you do this in 3 sentences. And then obviously you can go deeper and deeper and deeper with all your different stories. So for example, do I have an example? What can I do? So I used to be a lot heavier, and well, not a lot, but 15 kilos or whatever. And I would be a very racist eater in the way that I've always been a vegetarian my entire life, never eaten meat or fish or whatever. But I would only eat white things: pasta, bread, potatoes, cheese. And I started eating, I think I had my first salad when I was 19 or something, and I really didn't like it. And I also didn't like exercise, and I thought it was just really exhausting, and I never understood how people would get up every day and go and exercise. And I did yoga in 2008. I hated it. I was like, how do people become yoga? I mean, doing this every day. But I had a lot of physical issues. I had a lot of back pain. My posture was literally like that. I had a lot of gut issues. I had skin issues. I mean, endless. And so eventually I started dating this girl I met her in Europe, and she turned out to run a raw vegan restaurant here in Bali. And because I really liked her at the time, I was really fascinated, and I was like, whoa, raw vegan, ooh, never heard of that before. And yeah, Bali, been there many times, but maybe I should come visit you. And so I came visit, got really sucked into that bubble, the expat raw vegan yogi bubble. But since then, and this has been several years, I have embraced veganism. I'm super healthy. I exercise every day. I feel super fit. Feel way better than I ever did in my 20s or teens. So this is just as an example of another hero's journey, I guess. And that's that. So I guess what my message is, going back to the tattoo of my follower that I started with, is that try to share your message in a way that people want to tattoo it on their skin. And also, don't try to be everything for everybody, because you're going to end up being nothing for no one. I still get the occasional hater email and the occasional just people who just don't like what I do and how I look, and you know, homophobia, it's real, you know, on fucking YouTube. So, but I'll keep doing what I do, and I'll keep putting out my stickers. So I got my stickers made the other day here in Bali, my first batch, because I just want to spread the message of living your heart out. And when I get something like that, it just warms my heart. And doing this talk today and seeing that there's so many people coming, being interested in what I have to share, is really beautiful. So thank you so much for being here. That's all I got. And if you have any questions now, then bring it. Thank you. Yeah, I'll put that out in the group tomorrow. So I want to make a little page on my website with the slides and some links. Cool. Anybody?
So from a business perspective, how does that translate into money? So keep funding your lifestyle.
Well, so I was thinking about integrating monetization into my talk, and then I decided not to, because it's already so much. But I mean, I personally, the way I monetize me as a person online is mostly right now through digital products. So I have, with my travel blog, I have a digital ebook course that I sell. Now also with Live Your Heart Out, I just launched an online course on the art of vulnerability. I've done online workshops. I do paid speaking gigs. Not this one, but I do speaking gigs and conferences, whatever, or workshops. I do, what else do I do?
So you think it's through, like,
I do, sorry?
You think it's through inertia, of just continuing to do,
What do you mean inertia?
like the momentum moving forward of what you're doing just drives you more?
How am I growing my platforms and stuff as well? Is that also what you're saying, or?
Yeah, like so if you're constantly putting stuff up online,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're constantly just being you, that's the message that you're putting across now, is that just be a person.
Well, it's about the 1,000 true fans, is what I was saying. Like that's the only thing I'm concerned about. And I know that if I cultivate that, and if I follow, for me, that's my calling. You know, whatever I'm doing right now, and I keep on doing it until I can't do it no more. Like I don't need to force myself to make videos. I didn't need to force myself to give this talk. I don't have to force myself putting myself out there. It comes very naturally to me personally. I enjoy it. I definitely get, one way or another, something out of it, for sure. I do really want to, from the heart, help other people and inspire other people, and getting that feedback keeps me going. Of course, I want to monetize it and make money in one way or another, and I try to do it as ethically, I guess, as possible, or as genuinely as well. And that's how it works, yeah, for me personally. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
He's my housemate. It's probably it's gonna be an interesting question.
We had an interesting talk when we were coming back from the photo shoot about haters and how you deal with it, and like if you could give that answer right now, like, I think that would be beneficial. Because I had like one, and like it was really weird to me, like thinking someone's gonna care about it and be super mean. So yeah.
Oh really? What was the hate about?
Well, like I do this stupid. I had this stupid idea to do 365 drawings for a year, and I don't know. I think I was at about 100, and like I have like only 1,000 people on Instagram. So, and I posted every day on Instagram, and so a random guy came out of nowhere and tried like and started saying that I draw like shit, and I was like, yeah, probably I do, but you know, like I'm out there and I'm working on it every day. So,
did you
it was really weird.
Did you check out his Instagram profile, and was he drawing?
Everything was closed. Like, yeah, we couldn't access.
See, I always feel like, and I think Brene Brown talks about that. She says to her haters, it's like, if you're not in the same arena with me, getting your ass kicked, I'm not interested in your feedback. Meaning, if that guy's not out there putting his drawings out there, just like, fuck him. But I mean, essentially, yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I had to cultivate, to be honest, is, you know, getting to a place where I just don't care anymore, because when you put yourself out there, if you don't have any haters, actually, no critics, it's actually a bad sign, I believe. I think it's important because if you have a strong message, you will attract the haters. And I will also include in the bonus stuff that I'll put up tomorrow a talk by Tim Ferris, because he gets a lot of haters, and he did a talk on how he deals with his haters and his critics. And I learned a lot from that because in the beginning it was really difficult for me. I have a lot of issues with criticism and being rejected and people not liking me and not loving me, because in the end I want to be loved with what I put out there. I want people to like me. I want to, you know, we all do at the end. And so it was very difficult for me in the beginning 6 years ago when I started blogging. I also realized I couldn't prevent that from happening because I am putting myself out there. And any artist, anyone, any entrepreneur that's putting themselves out there, we're actually saying yes to that risk of receiving negative feedback to it. And so in the beginning, I would respond to all the hate and the critics and whatever, and it would just perpetuate. It would just, you know, it would just grow bigger and bigger. And a lot of times for a lot of people that leave their shit on my channels is that it's just a lot of ego. And a lot of times I also needed to realize that unhappy people criticize, happy people praise, for example, or only hurt people hurt. When now these days when I get these sort of comments that are clearly not been pro, what's the word? You know what I mean? No? No, but like in a positive way, a positive criticism, a way that I can actually do something with it. Constructive, that's it. That if it's obviously just, you know, someone's negativity, negative energies, then I also a lot of times can now see the hurt. It doesn't mean, or the unhappiness, or just that they're not loving themselves at all, and so they need to shit on me because they're so unhappy with their own lives and who they are. They need to make other people feel bad about themselves too, and so eventually I started to be able to read these comments and these emails and just immediately click delete, ban, suspend, and these people are out. People have one chance and then they're out. Because I always say it's my living room. I let you into my living room. And if you don't have anything positive to say, then just don't. Like, just go away. I mean, obviously, there's always room for constructive criticism. And obviously, a lot of times that's also very much up for debate, what is constructive and what is not. But if I feel like that person's energy does not contribute to the community that I like to cultivate, then that person's out. Like, I don't want to, yeah. So still, it triggers me sometimes. Not as much as it used to. It does get better, but it's also gotten better because I have dealt with it like personally. Like, I've made the topic of critics and haters topic of therapy sessions that I've had, or with my coach, you know. I went into that because I wanted to understand, like, why is it after all these years it still triggers me when I get, you know, someone criticizing me. But it's also gotten less because the more vulnerable I've made myself over the years, the more I've really shared from the heart, the less of a platform I'm giving haters to leave their shit in my living room, basically.
And you deleted and banned them.
Sorry?
And you deleted and banned them all.
Yeah, sometimes they notice and then they send me emails and like, it keeps going, I can't believe you banned me. I was like,
That's good.
yeah, so that's it. Yeah, one last question?
Conni, great talk, very inspiring.
Awesome, thanks.
But I'm just wondering, if you went that route, sharing everything, you know, your vulnerability, your challenges, would you at some point miss being that anonymous person on the street, walking around, minding your own business? Because if everybody knew you, you became so famous, and everybody knew your challenges and everything,
Yeah.
then wouldn't it be weird that, you know?
That's an awesome question, because I think about it sometimes, yes. You know, I can't lie, like, I still go through my ups and downs, obviously, and sometimes they're very low, and especially when they're very low, I sometimes want to I don't want anybody to know me. Because I'm very easily recognizable, and a lot of followers and stuff come through Bali, I get recognized here in Bali quite a lot. And sometimes that happens when I'm not having a good day. And it can be quite exhausting sometimes because I want to be obviously who they think I am because I want it to be all streamlined and in alignment and stuff. And then here I am, and then I'm not who they think I was. And sometimes there's a lot of pressure to you know, unconsciously perform, I've noticed, yes. And sometimes there are days when the weight of the world and of the social media world that I've created for myself becomes a little bit heavy when I'm already having a heavy day. At the end of it, though, when I'm back in my energies, when I'm back at realizing just how powerful that work is, and when I get back at reading those emails and comments, or when I get a photo of someone tattooing my message on her arm, I know why I'm doing this. And I know that at the end of the day, I'm called to do this. Like I said, it's not work for me. I don't have to force myself. I don't have to push myself to put myself out there. I've also really reflected on this a lot. Am I doing this for ego reasons? Am I doing this? Am I putting myself out there on Instagram and YouTube and whatever because my ego needs this? Do I need the likes? Do I need the comments and all of that? Is that what I feed off? Who would I be? And I asked myself this question very recently. Who would I be? And I'm getting goosebumps as I talk about it. Who would I be if all of it shut down tomorrow? If there was no more Instagram and YouTube and blogging and nothing, who would I be? Because, of course, yeah, I do identify myself through all of that and through these other people that I can reach. And it's a bit of a scary thought to have. But I think what I would do is I would go out and I would find other ways to share my stories and my message. I don't know, publish articles in newspapers and create my own street magazine or something like that, and I'd run around and pass that out. Of course, there's days when everything's a bit heavy, but overall, I'm just immensely grateful for the people that I'm able to touch with my work. So, thank you for coming. I don't know if I can take another one because it's meant to. Sorry. Thank you for coming, guys.